Hey guys, so welcome back to today's video. In today's episode, we're going to be talking knees. We're going to be talking bulletproofing knees and making sure that we're strong, stable, and robust enough to be able to handle the forces and the impacts that come with playing any sport, regardless whether that's running, football, rugby, whatever, volleyball, anything, right? So when it comes to knees, one of the biggest risks that we have is ACL tears, MCL tears, like straining the knee in a way that causes us to break down. And ACL tears are prevalent in all sports, especially female sports. So doing our due diligence to make sure that we're doing everything in our power to build strong and robust knees that can handle the forces and the impacts that sport brings with it should be at the forefront of all of our minds when we're sort of looking at training programs. Because regardless of how fast you are, strong you are, whatever ability you have, the best ability that you can have is availability. No one cares how strong or fast you are if you're injured and sitting on the bench. So from a preventative standpoint, we want to make sure that in our training, we're doing everything we can to reduce our risk of injury, right? That's what strength training should be doing. Yes, we want to improve performance, but the way we improve performance is by first laying the foundations of robustness and prevention so that we can continue training into the long haul, right? So when it comes to knees, the guy that you want to look into and the guy that you want to follow is a guy called Dr. Tim Hewitt. He's the world's leading experts in knee research and knee rehab when it comes to ACL, works out the Mayo Clinic. And essentially one of the four key parameters that he outlines in terms of analyzing risk of ACL tears and knee injuries is, first of all, going to be limb dominance. Do we have a leg that is more dominant than the other? That's a somewhat of a flag if we do. Anterior dominance versus posterior dominance. Are we quad dominant versus hamstring dominant? That's another predictor. Are we trunk dominant? Do we want to move through the trunk more than we want to move through the hip? Again, another one. And then are we ligament dominant? Do we tend to rest on our ligaments and hang into our joints more than setting ourselves up muscularly? Now, if you tick the wrong boxes on all four of them, it's about a 97% predictor of a potential of an ACL tear. So we want to do everything in our power to make sure that we're moving ourselves away from those injury risks. And one of the ways I love to do that, and this is following the work of Dr. Tim Hewitt, is this exercise I'm kind of demonstrating here, okay? So this is a low box step down. And what we're doing here is we're training correct mechanics on a single leg, right? So you can see here that I'm going through a step down here. I'm not resting at the bottom and I'm driving up. So there's a high amount of muscular load with very minimal rest periods during this set, right? So if you do a normal box step up, you're resting when you're standing on the floor and you're only working throughout that movement, and you're gonna be resting at the top a little bit, lowering down, resting, and then going again. Here we're continuing work, okay? What we are doing here is we are training inter and intramuscular coordination. So we are training the muscles as an individual component, but also how they work together to control motion. And what we'll see here is that when you see me turn to the side and perform this is a hip hinge. I'm not just going straight up and down, I'm moving my hips back. Again, I'm creating that nice sort of shoulders in front of hips, but hips behind knees, and then knees in front of ankles. So I'm creating this almost like zigzag effect, which is a spring. And then the other thing I'm looking at here is what's happening at the arch of my foot. So as you can see when I'm doing this from the side, is that there is zero collapse of the arch of my foot. And when you see this from the front, there's very minimal oscillation on the knee. So it's very stable, and I'm just working those muscles to control that movement. This is the position that I'd want you to land in and to jump from, either from a single leg or both legs. And the other thing that we're getting here in accordance to those four main predictors is obviously building up the capacity on individual legs, okay? And making sure that there is some level of parity. So here I am performing 2 sets of 25 reps on each side, pretty much back to back, so 50 reps total. We are getting good muscular coordination, so we're really controlling and ingraining that movement pattern whilst training the muscles to be both strong, stable, and fit to be able to produce and replicate this movement over and over again. And we are really learning how we want to land, what position we want to be in when we try to produce and absorb force, which is vitally important, right? Because so much of what we do is ingrained, it becomes habit. And we want to make sure that we are ingraining and building good movement habits. And this exercise is fantastic for it. It's such a low barrier to entry. I mean, you can start this out. Obviously, I'm doing this unsupported, which is something I've built up to over the years. And that just adds in the balance component, which is, again, part of being stable, is being stable on our feet. So we're haven't got unnecessary wear and tear and unnecessary movement. We're controlling everything about this. That will carry over to the field of play, hopefully. We can't always predict that. But now we can go understand that if I'm going to jump and land on my left leg, hopefully, looking at this movement, I should be just as strong and stable as if I was landing on my right. And that is ultimately what we are trying to train, right? We are trying to be the strongest, most stable version of ourselves so that we can improve our performance and, more importantly, reduce our risk of injury, which is ultimately going to lead to improved performance because we have to spend less time away from training. So put this into your rotation. I like this one as well because it's a really challenging exercise with no external load. You don't need external load for this. For me, I want to build capacity. If I want to build strength in this movement, I increase the range of motion. So I start to challenge it through range. So you've seen me do this on high boxes, which is way harder. I wouldn't be able to do 2 sets of 25 on a 24 or 30-inch box. But we can progress and we can build into this. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of an idea of how to build strong knees. It's not just leg extensions, because so much of the load that goes through the knee is predicated by what's happening at the ankle and what's happening at the hip. So we're trying to train that entire limb from ball and socket joint at the hip to the ankle as one entire unit. So all those muscles know what they're doing upon ground contact and know what they're doing as they're trying to produce force into that ground. So hopefully you found this useful. If you have any questions on this or you want to see anything explained any further, please feel free, ask a question. And I'll get another video done. But hopefully you found this useful, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow.